Some of our biggest fears of getting started on that new project, hobby, YouTube channel or business is that we're afraid. How many times do you face that mental battle to only tell yourself that today is not the day to get started? I have faced exactly that, and it has meant putting off a YouTube channel for 3 years, and since falling in love with property development, yep, you guessed it, I've put that off for another 1.5 years as well. So the question is, why are we so bad at getting over the fear of starting something new? To really understand where this stems from, we need to go back in time. There's a popular and ancient Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. But why do we always delay on starting something new? In Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield, he covers the idea that fear is complex, but it can be related to a physical force. And once you start to push and get over that initial hurdle and the initial force, then the resistance becomes easier, and therefore the actual task gets easier and better. If you're new here, my name's Matt, and on the side I invest in property as well as distilling information on productivity, personal finance and self-improvement. Let's get back to the objections of getting started and why we would tell ourselves no. The main objection that people have of getting started on that brand new project or hobby or business is the fear of other people judging you and what other people will think. So you can typically break this down into 3 main areas. 1, nobody will care what I have to say. 2, I'm not good enough or I'm not an expert yet in this field. And number 3, people will think that I'm self-centered and that I'm an imposter. So let's drill down into each of these 3 areas and dispel the myths. So concern 1, nobody will care. This generally comes from the insecurity that we think that no one else is going to care about what we have to say and kind of the things we're talking about. But the reality is you shouldn't be doing it for other people. You should be doing it for yourself and your own self-improvement. Ask yourself one simple question. Do you think that you could change or inspire one person with the content that you're pushing out or the idea that you have? And if the answer to that is yes, that you could impact one person in the world, then you should definitely go for it. Concern 2, I'm not good enough or I'm not skilled enough to get started in the field. Sure, there are lots of people in the world who are ahead of their game. You could just look at an Olympian and compare yourself if you just started running and thinking, how on earth do I get there? You know, that's the standard I need to get to. Simply, the reason why you don't have to be an expert to share your work and share your experiences and your learnings is because you can be an amateur. In the book, there's a great quote from Clay Shirky's Cognitive Surplus, and it says, on the spectrum of creative work, the difference between the mediocre and the good is vast. Mediocrity is, however, still on the spectrum. You can move from mediocre to good in increments. The real gap is between doing nothing and doing something. Austin Kleon then goes on to say, amateurs know that contributing something is better than contributing nothing. They might lack formal training, but they're all lifelong learners, and they make a point of learning in the open so that others can learn from their failures and successes. And that leads nicely onto concern number 3, which is people may think I'm self-centered or find out that I'm an imposter. The reality of this excuse, and sadly, is that people aren't thinking about what you're doing. And if you're providing true, honest, and real content, then why would anyone think you're a douche for doing so? Have you ever read a blog post or watched a YouTube video and thought, geez, you know, this person, an absolute douche? But you don't really think that way. You kind of get inspired by people sharing their income videos, for example, or talking about inspirational books that they've read. And if someone did think that you were self-centered, then so what? You can't please everyone in the world, and the time that you would waste trying to convince that particular person or turn them around is a waste of your time, your energy, and your effort, and it's not worth it. Move on. So, how do we get over the fears of showing our own work? There are 2 ways to show your work when it comes to learning, hustling, and creating. Number 1 is do in silence and then show the end product. 2 is show the work and progress publicly. In the book, Austin explains why the latter is better, and I'm trying to do this with my YouTube channel and my brand new property website as well to kind of showcase what I'm doing to the world and start to attract people who are interested in what I have to say and what I'm doing. And the reason is because it brings 4 main benefits. The first main benefit is the feedback loop. Now, people are going to judge, they're going to have opinions, they're going to comment, and they're going to talk about the stuff that you're working on and the stuff you're doing. This allows you to get feedback from the people who follow you and are close to the work that you're doing. This could be from outsiders giving you a new perspective. It could be from experts in the industry already, or it could be from haters and trolls as well. But the real sweet spot for me is people who are just one step behind you. And this is where not being an expert is an important point, because you can have someone who's one step behind you but still inspired by everything you're doing because Your journey and theirs are so relatable, and if you're one step ahead, they can learn from you and see what you're doing and kind of what they can do next. The second main point is accountability. Now, this is where you have an audience who are watching you, and that gives you also other people to compare against as well. Your audience, for the majority, want to see you do well, and they'll also hold you accountable for the things that you're saying that you will do. I saw a stat that supposedly humans are 40% more likely to get something done if they commit to it to a friend, family member, or someone that they know. So by showing your progress publicly and talking about your plans for the next 6 months or the next year can really help you stick to those goals and those targets that you set yourself. And that leads me on to number 3. Seeing your progress. What you can do here is look back and see the actual process that you've gone through and the changes that you've made. It's sometimes really hard to see how we're making incremental improvements day by day. It's the same as losing or gaining weight. We don't really notice on a daily basis. It's only until you look at a photo 1 or 2 years apart and realise, wow, there's a big difference there. Often what we do as humans is we set a goal for the future and somewhere that we want to aim, and we measure ourselves against the gap between where am I today versus where do I need to get to. And until we get there, we're not successful, we haven't hit our goals or targets, and therefore we need to work harder to get what we want. But once you meet the goal and you have that temporary celebration, you then set the next goals and then continue measuring yourself against the next gap. Instead, you should be measuring yourself against the progress that you've made and looking back, and that's how you can do it, by showing your work publicly. And lastly, you can establish a community and a following of like-minded people who you can help and who can help you too. A big message in the book is about creating a personal brand. We live in a world where names can be searched, profiles can be hunted down, so if people are doing this already, why not make it easier for them and paint a really positive picture when they do? A good test is just to Google your own name right now and just see what crops up. You know, is it random profiles? Is there a full brand there? Can they see that you have a newsletter and a website and a YouTube channel? Or are you an anonymous person that can't be searched? And the main point here is that by increasing your visibility, you'll open yourself up to more luck. The more you make and the more you share means that there's more potential and more opportunities for other people to find you and provide you with great opportunities moving forwards. I've seen this in my own results already, where I started a property Instagram page 3 months ago, or 81 days ago, and I've already managed to hit just over 1,000 followers. But the great thing is, within those 1,000 followers, they're not just numbers on an Instagram page. They're real people who a lot I've had conversations with, I've had Zoom calls with. Another great quote by Austin in the book is, by letting go of our egos and sharing our process, we allow for the possibility of people having an ongoing connection with us and our work, which helps us move more. In summary, my realisation that the biggest barrier to getting started was me. And once I begun to understand and dispel some of the myths to all the concerns and objections, that's why I got started, and I'm already starting to get over that initial push and the initial resistance and force and start to find it easier and easier, and also more enjoyable. As a result, I've got my Instagram profile that's growing, I've got the brand new YouTube channel, and I'm also growing a website and an email list on the side as well. Once you get over the hurdle of all those mental objections, you can begin to train those confidence muscles and over time become better. If there's one quote that you take away with you today, this is the one that you should remember. Be so good they can't ignore you. If you just focus on getting really good, people will come to you. You don't find an audience for your work, they find you. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and if you found any value in this video, please hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.